And then lastly, I added all these red notes. Now with the effects, you can see the effects play a huge role in combining this sound together. Yo, what's good with y'all, man? Today we got a very special video breaking down this sample, perfect for some Young Thug vibes, a very dark, haunting type of sample. If you guys want the sounds I use in this video, first link in the description down below. And with that being said, let's get straight to it. So here we are on the FLP, and to break down the sample, there's pretty much 3 sections. You got the first part, little switch up, and then the final switch up, which is actually like 16 bars long. First, I started with this piano. Now, a lot of y'all know I love using Keyscape. I've used Keyscape a lot in my videos, but I've never shown this preset, I think, because I never really used this preset myself. But Lonely Basement, I used in here. So for this MIDI, it was very simple. I first started with these 2 basic chords. And what I like to do to kind of lay the foundation in these melodies is start with these very wide chords. And the way I like to build these is literally starting with a simple idea like this right here. And then all I'll do is I'll take these same notes and I'll copy them and up an octave. And then up here, I'll just change some notes, add some new ones. And all I'm doing is basically the same chord. I'm just bringing some of the notes down 1 or 2 semitones to give it that dark, haunting feel. And then lastly, I added all these red notes. Now these were like the actual melody in between, so it's not so static and boring. Now last thing I have to mention is that the velocity plays a huge part in this melody. I did not have everything be static like this. It still sounds good, but it sounds very harsh, robotic, and just unrealistic. So I always like to tweak my velocity. Now with the effects, this is how it sounds without them. You can see the effects play a huge role in combining this sound together. I first started with this retro tape. Now if you've seen it in my other videos, you guys know that I love this plugin right now. It is my favorite. But after that, I added this Shep's EQ, and I use this wide piano stereo preset. Now this is basically just kind of raising the highs. So this effect really makes those highs stand out a lot. Then I have a compressor just controlling all the levels, and then a EQ lowering some of those bass and low end. Now after that, I brought this phrase in from the Prophet Gallery kit, and I chose this one right here. So it's really easy. All these phrases have the key labeled for you, and if you go inside of Edison, you could see that the tempo is synced for you, but it still shows you the original tempo. So you could follow the original tempo, which was 106, but for me, I just wanted to sync it, so I just dragged it in and it automatically syncs itself. Now for the effects, I just took out some of those low end because I knew I wanted to add a bass later in the sample, and this is the instrument that I panned a little bit to the left and then the piano to the right. So I didn't do much. The phrase fit perfectly and complemented the piano very easily and saved me a lot of time. Next, I added the bass, and this bass was very simple. I added it from the All You Need To, and this is the bass that I picked right here. And I added this very simple melody just following the root notes of the piano. And then this melody just repeats over for the second half, so it's just the same thing over. And I added no effects on here. I just lowered the volume a little bit. Lastly, I added this little sound effect from the All You Need To again called Texture Planet, and I just added it at the beginning of each 4 bars. And on here, all I have is a very simple delay, a reverb. So it really helps add that haunting type of feel, and it helped complement the sample a lot. Even though it's such a small detail, you could feel it in the full sample. Now that we're done with the first section, it was very simple, just a dark haunting intro. Then we move on to the very simple switch up. I kept the bass and I kept that little texture sound effect that I showed earlier. The only thing I changed is I rendered out the piano. And for the second half, I copied the same piano again, I just faded it out. And this was to help with the switch up that I wanted to add for the third part. But the main element I added for the second half was another phrase from Prophet Gallery, and it's this one right here. Again, all these phrases are made with my Prophet Rev 2, ran through the Chroma console, so they all capture that real vintage analog sound already. I don't have to add too much processing, really any processing at all. I just drag and dropped it and I matched the key. As far as the effects, I just lower the low end because like I said, I have a bass down here, so this is already covering the low end, and everything blended in very, very well. And you can see for the switch up, I have the piano fade out like I showed earlier, and I have the phrase come in and kind of take over the main sound. Next, for the last section, for the last switch up, this one is a little longer, 16 bars instead of 8. But again, not too many elements. I'm just removing some of the old elements that I had and adding new ones. You can notice that I'm not stacking anything over and over, like I'm not adding these again, because I feel like that would be too much and then the sample would just be overcomplicated and there wouldn't be any room for a lot of these new sounds to really come in and shine. So I first started with the piano. All I did was I sped it up by using the time multiplier. I held Alt and I used my mouse wheel to scroll downward, and this is going to snap it to 50%. And this also pitched up the entire recording, and I put it on Stretch Pro. This is the kind of format shifted a tiny bit, but this is how it basically sounds. A lot more fast, a lot more energetic. And I did the same concept for the bass, as you can see right here on the bass. I took the original melody, which is the one that's red, and I went to this arrow, I held Alt, and I just dragged it in. And it's the same melody, I just sped it up. Added a couple notes, kind of changed the pattern a little bit. Next, I added that same little texture I showed earlier. And then lastly, I added 3 new elements for this part. I added this little texture from BeatCenter Sync 2 one-shot kit. And I literally just dragged it in and I faded out that little clip. There's like a little popping sound I just didn't like. Faded that out and I added 2 delays. I added this very, very short one, and then I added a lot longer one tucked in the background. The second sound I added was a very, very simple choir. I went into Omnisphere and I used this Choral Felts preset right here. And I just have a very simple melody kind of going down the scale. The actual MIDI that I played is very, very simple, but I really wanted to choose a really good sound that complemented, like I said earlier, that haunting, dark, ghost type of vibe that I was going for. So I really wanted to pick a lot of real ambient type of sounds, and a choir fit perfectly with this sample and the rest of the sound selection that I already had selected. So with that being said, that fit well for the little second half. For the final part, I just added one more phrase from the Prophet Gallery, and it's this Windy City one. I dragged it in, I reversed it, and I messed with the detune a tiny bit. I just detuned it a little bit for it to kind of stand out but not be like completely out of key. As far as the effects, I added nothing on here. I just panned it a tiny bit to the left, and then this is how that sounded. That's pretty much it for the whole sample, man. I copied the whole thing over. I just removed the bass. As you can tell, there's no more bass. After that, I exported the entire sample, and then this is how that sounds. But that's pretty much it for the entire sample. Like I said, if you guys want any of these sounds that I used in this video, first link in the description down below. You guys can get the beta completely free. But if you guys already sold, you guys want the full version with over 300 phrases, it's available to purchase right now. It'll be the first link in the description down below. But with that being said, man, hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'm uploading videos every day for the rest of the month, so I need any video ideas y'all have. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.